Hello and welcome to the anniversary edition of CoinDesk TV's The Hash. We've been doing this for 1 year, every weekday, same place, same time. We're going to have a little bit of nostalgia at the end here. But first, I'm here to share some breaking news out of Washington. Major news relating to the 2016 Bitfinex hack. U.S. government officials have seized some $3.6 billion of cryptocurrency related to the prosecution of two individuals who are alleged to have money laundered some of these funds. Check out CoinDesk.com for the latest on that news. Big story out of Washington today for sure. All right, now that that's out of the way, let's get to the regular programming. First up, we have Will. There's some other stuff going on in DC today, not related to Bitfinex, but also big news. What do you got?
Yeah, that's right. We're staying place in DC, and we're joining CoinDesk along with Nicholas Day and other reporters who are tracking developments in the stablecoin land. So the presidential working group issued a report a few weeks ago about stablecoins, and now the House is going through it, kind of talking about like what are the implications for stablecoin adoption in the United States. Could there be regulatory risk? Could there be risk for everyday consumers? Could there be risks to the financial sector writ large? And so they're trying to like parse through these things. And typically when we watch these, they're pretty boring, but there's always some one-liners that pop out of here, especially from our favorite Brad Sherman from California. So Naomi, I want to throw this one over to you. Obviously, we've seen a lot of developments about stablecoins this last 2 years because stablecoins have become sort of like the means of exchange between different tokens. So if you're going to buy a token and you want to swap it for another token, oftentimes you go in between a stablecoin first. And that's why stablecoin volumes have surged over the last 2 years. And then the amount of stablecoins on chain has also reached into the billions of dollars, which obviously it's pretty important. So I want to toss it up to you. What's your thoughts on today's hearing so far?
Yeah, I mean, it's all much of the same, and it's exactly what you'd expect. I think that there is no future in which stablecoins that are issued by a centrally, what's the word, essential party is not going to be controlled. I mean, that's the one place that the government can target with cryptocurrency, so they're obviously going to. I mean, there are some great nuggets in there that you mentioned, some really dumb facepalm moments where I don't think these politicians realize what they're saying. Like Brad Sherman is always one of my favorite people to hate on because he just is out to lunch when it comes to crypto. But he says, Facebook's Libra later DM had so much money and power behind it that it could have emerged as an everyday currency. Like, what is he actually saying? Is he saying we're worried about this thing because it could have hurt people? Or is he just saying like this might have become a valuable tool for people? And that's scary to us because heaven forbid people have a money that's valuable to them. So it's just like their rhetoric around this really misses the point. Like, are they working for the people or are they working for themselves? Are they working for, justice in society, or are they working to maintain the status quo and the, position of the state? And it's very clear that it's the latter. So they're worried about not instability for like consumers. They're worried about them not having control over the money supply. And that's what this entire hearing has sort of been gravitating around. Lots of comments like that. There's also, they're talking about this concentration of power, like Waters said, and she said there's no opening statement and in her questions, she's saying she's worried about stable coins, their concentration of power. And yet the proposal that they're looking at literally recommends that we limit the people who can issue stable coins. Let's concentrate that power even further in the hands of banks. So again, it's just these vacuous statements that really don't mean much. They're not interested in dispersing that power at all. They're interested in keeping it in the hands of the people that it's already in. They're interested in making sure that, bankers don't lose their cartel status and still maintain control over the money supply. And I don't think there's going to be anything different to come out of this. I think they're ultimately going to end up winning in putting down pretty heavy-handed regulation on stable coins. And that's just the direction we're going in. But that's the direction this was always going in. It's a central part, it's a centrally controlled part of crypto. And it's very different from Bitcoin, which is decentralized. That's why Bitcoin was created, because it can't be controlled. Central stable coins obviously can, and it's going to be. But Jen, I'll throw it to you for your thoughts.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. We don't often get much action out of these hearings. And a lot of the same thing is being said that we heard in the previous months and the previous hearings that we've covered. So, a lot of talk about consumer protection, illicit finance, and systemic risks, and a lot of funny nuggets. And okay, so there are funny nuggets and people who obviously don't know what they're talking about, but there are some that make sense. And I'd like to read one of those. So Representative Patrick McHenry said, we can't regulate out of fear for the future. Requiring stablecoins to only be issued by banks would be a major obstacle for us to continue to foster innovation with this nascent industry. And that really hit home for me. It really made me think about the fear behind this, right? Everyone involved in these hearings, there's a fear of losing control and a fear of the unknown and a fear of innovation in the future. And so that's what I took away from it. I agree with you, Naomi. I don't think we're going to see much movement. But Zach, maybe you have a more optimistic take.
Oh, I'm just blown away by the Bitfinex news with the DOJ. So on a day in which many people were watching DC for the stablecoin hearing, this has definitely stolen the show. So interesting to see these things unfold in tandem, as timing in crypto does always happen to work in mysterious ways. But yeah, I think there's like funny quips on Twitter about instead of crypto.com arena in LA and Staples Center, of course, moneylaundering.com arena is what someone said from Capitol Hill this morning. So it's just funny to watch it all play out. And, these conversations, we're going to have more of them. It's going to be interesting to see. But let's move on. I think I'm throwing a Jen. Jen, you're talking about crypto.com in some capacity. What do you got?
I am. It's SportDesk.
Sports Desk.
I was so not suave in throwing to that. Naomi, it's the first time Naomi's seen that.
What
is going on? We have a sports desk now. This is problematic. Absolutely
You leave
problematic.
us for one day and look what happens.
I leave you in this
total
the whole
pandemonium.
ship sinks. We've got sports desk. What's next? You're going to have, I don't know, what's something else like MMA desk. Is that part of sports? I guess it is. It's all just sports.
Yeah,
it is indeed. Yeah,
all right. Yeah, that's okay.
No ball,
let's move right into this sports desk story. So the Super Bowl is coming up and FTX is giving away Bitcoin as part of their Super Bowl commercial. So they have a floater unit, which means that the commercial will air when there's an unexpected break. So when there's an injury or, I don't know, something happens that regularly happens in football. And the amount of Bitcoin that's going to be given away depends on the time that the commercial airs. So if the commercial airs at 8:15, they're going to give away 8.15 Bitcoin. Let's take a look at one of the teasers and then we'll take it from there.
I've missed out on talking for 33 years, but I'm not missing out this Sunday. FTX is giving away the time their ad runs in Bitcoin, and I'm going to win. For charity.
Okay, so that teaser featured a monk from the medieval times who missed out on talking. There's Thomas Edison in one of them. And so the whole theme of these is FOMO. Zach, I'm going to throw this to your opinions. I have many thoughts on what's going to happen during the Super Bowl when it comes to crypto companies, but you are our sports desk aficionado. You are a sports desk
not true.
reporter.
That is not fact check. Naomi is our sports desk reporter. We know this to be true. So fact check. Had to fact check you on that one. I mean, I'll share some opinions.
Thanks, yeah.
Everyone's calling this the crypto bowl, right? FTX is not alone in spending some ad dollars on America's premier TV watching event, the Super Bowl. So FTX is involved. I think crypto.com is involved. Binance is involved in some capacity. There's going to be a whole flood of crypto commercials this year. There's rumors again of maybe a Dogecoin commercial appearing. Didn't materialize last year, but the rumors are back for this year. So there's all sorts of stuff that's bubbling out there in the market because there's a lot of money that has been made by these companies and these projects over the past 12 months, and they want to flex some of that money. I don't know. I was looking at the FTX one, and I was wondering if it was like a low-key dunk on the crypto.com ad, which also features historical figures interacting with Matt Damon and was also sort of an object of scorn among the Twitter commentariat of the past couple months. So FTX doing its thing. The charity aspect, I think, is par for the course from Sam Bankman-Fried, who is said to be an effective altruist. And so they're trying to kind of have their cake and eat it too when it comes to a giveaway for a cause. So interesting to see. It's going to be interesting to see the backlash and if there's going to be a lot of annoyed comments on social media about how many crypto ads there are this year. But I'll toss it to Naomi actually for her thoughts.
Yeah, I have to say that if I hadn't read this article first and then I watched that ad, I would have no idea what that ad was for. Like you've got a monk and he's like not going to miss out on talking, but then they're giving away Bitcoin. Then there's something to do with the amount of time. Like it's really confusing. I'm not sure that it was the best formulated ad I've ever seen because I don't think it really conveyed a lot of information about what they're advertising. But Jen, I'll throw it back to you.
I wanted to pick up from where Zach left off. So Binance isn't actually advertising at the Super Bowl. They're advertising around the Super Bowl. And speaking of those low-key dunks you were talking about, Zach, they are telling people to beware and not trust celebrities shilling crypto in big game ads. And this reminded me of the Crypto.com Matt Damon ad that showed up in South Park recently. And I think that we can watch that. What a fun segment we have.
So much going on.
We can have some goddamn balls! What does Matt Damon say on that Bitcoin commercial? Fortune favors the brave!
My dad said he listened to Matt Damon and lost all his money.
Yes, everyone did! But they were brave in doing so! Bro!
Rugged by South Park. So sad.
I know, but also so funny. And so I think just like watching this and seeing the general sentiment, like you said, Zach, it will be interesting to see what people are saying on Twitter. But Will, what do you take away from all of this?
I kind of like the back and forth between the different crypto exchanges, kind of throwing shade at each other where they can do that. I mean, everyone's laughing to the bank at the end of the day, so it is what it is. I'm interested to see what how people who have not had exposure to crypto jump into this and what they walk away with it. Obviously, Twitter is just going to lambaste everybody. They're not going to like every single ad, no matter how great it looks. It just doesn't matter. What I am interested in seeing, though, again, is like the stuff afterwards. What happens with it? Are people going to be like turned on to it or not? The thing that this reminded me of is back in May of 2021, or maybe it was in April, when Elon Musk went to SNL. And everyone was so hyped for it. And the price of Dogecoin hit an all-time high that night and then dumped on everybody so hard and so fast afterwards. And we went into like a mini bear market over the summer. And now we're like on a different side where here we're already kind of in a slump with the price. Maybe we're chugging up a little bit going into the event. So maybe this helps prop it up more. Or maybe we get like another dunk session and we just go into a nice bear market because we've cringed ourselves away. We'll see what happens, though. You never know. Never know. Zach, we'll get back to you.
You never know. Crypto cringe fest. It could be. There's been a lot of chatter. I think a former Dogecoin co-founder was saying, "Please," in the responses to this tweet, please don't be cringe. Please don't be cringe. Please don't be cringe. But we'll see. All right, let's take a break, shall we? Let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about Axie Infinity. That is the big play-to-earn game in the crypto space. I had to tweak the tokenomics a little bit to make it all work. It's an interesting little story about P2E gaming. We'll talk about that after the break. It's The Hash. Hey, see you soon. All right. Go team. Axie Infinity, the play-to-earn game that launched 1,000 startup pitches, is tweaking its tokenomics to make sure that its SLP token, its Silver Love Potion token, no, Smooth Love Potion token. I always mess that up. To make sure that its Smooth Love Potion token does not collapse. Okay, this is interesting because a lot of people, especially in Southeast Asia, notably in the Philippines, are using this platform to earn actual income. And because SLP was like infinitely inflationary, it was tanking from its all-time highs, something like down like 90 50+% over the past time period. So the people behind this game said, hey, we need to tweak this up. We need to firm up the tokenomics in a bid to make this more sustainable. Prices for both SLP and the AXS governance token responded favorably to the news. But the idea here that I'm trying to hone in on is this idea of assembling this plane in flight when it comes to play to earn and the economies therein. So I'm going to toss this straight to Naomi for her initial thoughts on what the Axie Infinity story is really about.
Well, it's interesting because they're talking about how they want it to be sustainable for users in the future, and that SLP has an uncapped token supply, and they're suddenly dawning on them that might be a bad idea, that might not be good for like sustainable income if you just keep flooding the market with these coins. So if you look at market cap, so SLP emissions apparently caused a drastic plunge in the token's prices earlier this month. Prices fell 94% from July's high of 39 cents. But then supply continued to increase, and so the market capitalization increased from 312 million from 166 million. So that's interesting. I mean, the market cap is increasing because we're getting all these new coins, but meanwhile, the price per coin is going down because it's just being flooded. It's an interesting lesson in what an uncapped supply does to the overall value of a market. I mean, we have inflation in a lot of currencies. It's not unheard of, and that's how you pay devs, and that's how you pay miners, and that's, it's as part of the ecosystem. But having this kind of predetermined inflation schedule is different from saying, well, there could be any number in the future. There's really nothing stopping this just going berserk. And I think that does factor into people's decision-making process when they're deciding, do I invest $1,000 in order to play this game, being unsure of what my investment's going to look like in the future because this supply could just get completely flooded. So some interesting lessons that they're figuring out there. But Will, I'll throw it to you for your take.
Yeah, Axie is a really interesting game. The community in the Philippines that's been farming Axie or been playing the game for so long and literally making a life based on an online game. I wonder how they're dealing with this. And I think just like Axie in general is an interesting product. Like Zach, you said at the top of the segment, Axie kind of spawned a lot of pitches for play to earn games. So they're kind of like the original in most people's mindsets about how crypto and gaming could interact. But I think it's just notable here that it's not a set thing, right? No one has kind of figured out how to make these mechanisms work for the long term. You're always going to have to tweak it. That's what makes them very different than Bitcoin, makes it very different than any other kind of cryptocurrency out there. It's crypto with a gaming component. And so you're going to have to change things as you play because the gaming ecosystem is also going to change itself. Jen, I'll throw it to you for last thoughts.
Yeah. I mean, I'm no economist, and when I hear unlimited supply, alarm bells go off for me. And so it's suspicious to me that this wasn't something that the team thought about in advance, but I'm glad that they're working on it, especially for those communities that you're bringing up, Will. There are whole communities that are making livings for themselves and their families off of this game. And to see the downward trend in the price of this token, it's heartbreaking. I don't know if any of you watched the documentary. I think it's called Play to Earn, about the communities. They're really able to make a livelihood for themselves. So to think about those people suffering at the hands of this, it is upsetting. But so I'm glad that they're working on it. I also thought about a story we covered last week where SLP was correlated to Meta's $10 billion loss. And the reason given in that article for SLP's price tanking was the relation between the metaverses. And I wonder if this was an outlying factor and the price dropping wasn't actually because of Meta reporting a $10 billion loss. It was actually because of the tokenomics.
Who's to say?
That's it for me. Who's to say?
That's it. Yeah, well, let's wrap up that segment and we'll... Hey, what is the greatest token name?
Pretty great.
Smooth Love Potion. You have to say it with a smooth
because SLP is the
voice.
second layer on Bitcoin Cash. So when I first read this, I was like, SLP? They're on Bitcoin Cash? That's weird. And then I was like, oh, it's a completely different thing that chose the exact same name. Okay, just like everything else in crypto where you have everyone just copying the name and there's the word bit and everything, and that it gets confusing. But let's move on to something that's not confusing, which is Kpop. which makes a lot of sense to me, probably the most sense-filled thing in our current world. And Binance is doing a partnership with some pretty heavyweight Kpop people. It's like combining my two great loves, crypto and Kpop. So I'm definitely here for this news. So what the news is, so we have this company called YG. They manage a bunch of stars like Blackpink. Check them out. If you have their dance moves, you can't beat them. Got Big Bang winner.
Let's see a dance move, Naomi.
Listen, I take K-pop dance classes. There's a place out in Queens that does it online, and it's awesome. It's the most adorable. Like, it's really cool. Anyway, this is about the crypto collaboration, guys. So they will reportedly give Binance access to develop digital assets based on their IP associated with these artists. So that's pretty cool. Like, moving into the NFT world and kind of bring this giant K-pop world in, because that is a giant market right there, a huge market that hasn't really explored the NFT space yet, but this collaboration seems pretty hefty. And one thing that was interesting about all of this is that they're focused on sustainability, like green, eco-friendly NFTs. That seems to be a big part of their media push. So I don't know whether they're latching on to this narrative right now that's very popular, like, oh, NFT is bad because environment, but we're not going to hurt the environment, or whether that's like an actual concern. Like, it's interesting that people kind of latch onto these buzzwords and whatever the zeitgeist is. But I'll throw it to you, Jen. What's your thought? Do you listen to any K-pop? What's your favorite K-pop band?
Well, I used to live in Korea, so I really was versed in K-pop then. I don't really listen to K-pop anymore, but I do love Blackpink, Naomi, and I would love for you to send me the link to that dance class. And we could take some dance classes, together. And then we'll both know the moves, and we could do it together. For people who don't know why... Yeah, on the hash. Here we go. We'll have Will and Zach in their column over there, and they can just look unimpressed at us. And then we can do dance moves. It just, brings the whole thing together. For people who don't know, YG is a massive, massive, well-oiled machine. They have an academy where artists are brought in at a young age. They're trained in how to live life in the limelight. They're put together. It's almost like Making the Band, but on steroids. And so for them to get into NFTs so late was interesting to me. And for them to focus on this green narrative tells me that they probably did some market research. I had to do market research for a company that was launching NFTs recently, and everyone we spoke to was concerned about the climate when it came to NFTs. And I think that's just because what's written in the headlines, it's easy to understand. It's a problem that's easy to understand and easy to get behind. And so what this tells me is they did a little bit of market research. They found that the people they were targeting care about that cause, and now that's what they're running with. But this is going to be huge. I mean, K-pop, I tried to look up the exact number for like how big the industry was, and I got conflicting reports. I got $5 billion and $10 billion, and that is a big gap. So we will say it is an industry that is worth more than $5 billion. So this is massive. But Will, what do you got?
I got nothing to add to the story. I'm very excited for the K-pop community and for Binance, but that's all I got for you. Just not
I'm a little disappointed that we have a sports desk intro with fire, and we don't have a K-pop desk intro. Right. So I would love to have that set up by next week for all our K-pop crypto stories. Get that done for Naomi. One per day. Yeah.
K-pop desk. Yeah. Kpop desk. Love that. All right, cool. We're going to wrap it here. As I mentioned up at the top, it's a special anniversary edition of The Hash. We've been doing CoinDesk TV here at CoinDesk for 1 whole year. We're going to take a look at a little highlight reel. Take a look. Watch this.
Welcome to First Mover, your first global look at today's action in the Bitcoin, blockchain, and digital asset space.
Welcome to Community Crypto on CoinDesk TV.
You're watching The Hash on CoinDesk TV.
Welcome to Money Reimagined. This is new money.
This is all about Bitcoin.
This is NFT All-Stars.
Biden's $1.9 trillion COVID relief bill maybe headed toward the Senate. I mean, how will this impact the crypto markets?
I feel like all of those scenarios are kind of priced in. Maybe it's a little higher.
I think there are reasons why the price of Bitcoin is rising so fast and why companies are replacing, dollar holdings with Bitcoin holdings. So just this morning, Christine, I looked at the money supply. So did you know that the money supply in the United States since the coronavirus pandemic started is up 25%?
I became interested in Bitcoin when I became concerned about the compilation of debt that we're doing and racking up in the Congress. And currently, we're going to add another 1.9 trillion to the debt.
MicroStrategy today announced that they were putting another $1 billion into Bitcoin, while yesterday on its earnings call, Square announced that it was putting $170 million into another buy.
It's not irresponsible for any corporate executive to convert a weaker asset into a stronger asset. It's not irresponsible to avoid burning 25% of your shareholders' money every year.
And for somebody like Elon Musk, who knows that there's a market impact, to manipulate, first take an individual position into Bitcoin, pump the price up, and then say that Tesla has invested and Tesla doesn't make money yet, it's also irresponsible and it's market manipulation.
I think that being disappointed in Elon Musk is a just punishment for caring about what he said in the first place. But clearly he's not, a cryptocurrency expert, and it's not his forte. He seems to be having a lot of fun trolling a lot of people on Twitter, and I think, getting rankled about that is kind of your problem.
I just became a millionaire by spending all my money on Dogecoin.
YOLO! I don't know even that Dogecoin would fit within the SEC's ambit, depending on whether or not one would consider purchases and sales to be securities purchases and sales, but don't come complaining to the government if you lose your money.
I think meme coins should definitely be taken seriously. I mean, first, on the most basic level, there is real money behind them. So this is not fake money, this is real money. And as our guests can talk about, people can actually make millions off of these coins, right? So they are serious on that level. But I think, this show is called Community Crypto, and this is about community-driven investment. And I think that's a really interesting and important phenomenon. And, these meme coins are great examples of that.
Coinbase will have competition, has competition, and that competition will increase. But I also think that Coinbase is now going to be able to effectively compete with not just the other crypto companies, but the Wells Fargos and the JP Morgans of the world. And that's just a much bigger market.
Coin stock goes live on NASDAQ. What they did was a voluntary earnings call where they shared their latest numbers, and they dropped some large numbers on the world.
JP Morgan's coming on board. Morgan Stanley already announced one. Wells Fargo just announced one. And slowly but surely, there'll be more and more people in the system, a result of which is going to push up the price.
Now what the hell's an NFT? Apparently cryptocurrency. Everyone's making so much money. Can you please explain what's an NFT?
The fact that SNL is covering NFTs, what does that guys tell you? Are NFTs going more mainstream, or is this the signal of a bubble?
I think that NFTs are really such an interesting gateway into crypto. Like, I keep thinking about all the waves people would get involved with crypto. I'm like the merchant adoption and all of the remittances and all of these things that never really happened. And then suddenly you get like artwork, and all these artists pile on.
Just because there is NFTs doesn't mean that you're going to slap some pretty piece of art on there and then you're Michelangelo. There's a lot of work that goes into actually even having a chance to succeed.
I think it's a bubble. I do think there is a bubble, and I think where we are at in that bubble, or if it's not a bubble now, I do believe it probably will be a bubble at some point, because there's just so many people rushing into the space.
Studios sometimes force feed you content. Like there is a world where your options are oddly limited, where they try to predict what it is that you're going to like. And so you kind of get like these 7 options, and that is what you get. And so we're trying to, I guess, find a model where we're going to allow, by people being able to purchase NFTs, to dictate what they want to watch.
The People's Bank of China announced that virtual currency-related business activities are legal. So on that news, of course, we have Bitcoin dumping 4% and a whole lot of red across the broader market.
So I think OTC platforms that are operated from the big exchanges, the Huobi and so on, and Binance, they will close down. They will stop offering their services to the Chinese mainland users.
I'm wondering where will they go?
A lot of the hash rate migrated to other parts of the world, like Central Asia with Kazakhstan and parts of North America. There was some hash rate that stayed behind, and that has once again been cracked down and shut off again.
We were thinking of building Bitcoin City.
Bitcoin is now legal tender in El Salvador, a world first just 3 months after the Bitcoin law passed the country's legislature.
We're very enthusiastic as a government and President Bukele leadership. They're afraid and they're concerned because if we succeed, as I said, a lot of countries are looking at us and they will follow, our leadership.
We're going to dive into what's going on with Apple and I've always been, the torchbearer for privacy and promoting great policies. At the start of the year, they promoted something that would stop apps tracking you on their devices. They copped a lot of flack from especially companies like Facebook, who said this is going to ruin their business model. And it seems that they have now actually walked that back substantially.
I think this is supposed to be a family-friendly show, so I'll just say this is BS. It's incredibly disappointing. And, you mentioned Facebook revenues, for people who haven't been paying attention, we actually did see huge hits to Facebook and Snapchat and a few other tracking companies' revenues after iPhones made this change. So you can only assume that that Cook is getting some pushback from his buddies in Silicon Valley and that this was something of a product of that.
What about Bitcoin ETFs? That's still something that has not been approved in the United States.
Ready for an traded product. People are looking for ways through our regulated securities markets to access Bitcoin.
I don't see it getting resolved. I don't see the first ETF coming until we have the regulatory environment to approve it. And also we've solved the ESG issue.
From our seat, we're certainly wanting to be ready and willing to engage in creating an ETF when regulatory approvals, start to pop up.
Breaking news, folks. Bitcoin, the world's largest cryptocurrency by market capitalization, hitting a new all-time high above $66,000.
Futures, in fact, we think are, if anything, a better place for price discovery. The regulatory aspect and the ETF wrapper make it a very compelling alternative.
Well, we filed a Freedom of Information Act request, and we got something like 230 pages worth of internal documents from the Trump administration regarding its crypto policy. Sometimes you file a FOIA and it works.
We've had this impression that the Trump administration was relatively light touch on crypto, and to me these emails kind of maybe cement that, because there were a lot of emails where you had people either requesting to speak with someone at the Treasury Department or specifically with Steven Mnuchin, and a lot of these emails we got internal records where staffers were saying, we don't think that this person needs to be able to speak with someone at Treasury, or, let's throw this to, such and such deputy.
I have to say, I thought it was kind of funny that Jared Kushner was the one who first brought stablecoins to the attention of the administration. He's not the guy I would have expected to have started that whole email train of, hey, we should look into stablecoins.
There hasn't been platforms created by people of color for people of color. The fact that you're making that available to everybody through what you're doing, I don't even think we realize the magnitude of that.
We're trying to remove intermediaries, and that's kind of what we see as the premise in crypto in general, especially Bitcoin.
I got into Bitcoin as a joke in 2016. I copped 2 Bitcoins for like $600, or no, I hate you. maybe 3 for like 600. And I actually lost my password to my Coinbase.
I've been in this space for 4 years, flying around the world, trying to explain to people what NFTs are and what it means to collect them. And honestly, I'm not even sure I know. But today we've got a bunch of sharp folks on, and I'm really excited to hear what you guys think. Like, what is an NFT to you, and what does it even mean to own an NFT or to collect one?
Non-fungible tokens.
Non-fungible is a term to describe things that can't be exchanged one for one with each other.
We like it. And those songs are more special because we feel like we earn them with our clapping. So an NFT is sort of like clapping for an encore, but it might be something else.
Hi, I'm Christine Lee.
Zach Seward.
I'm Michael Casey.
I'm Christy Harkin.
I'm Isaiah Jackson.
I'm Serena Lynn.
Hey, this is Will Foxley.
I'm Teresa Santos.
Hi, I'm Lawrence Lewitton.
Hi, I'm Dorian Wayne.
I'm Nicholas Day.
Hi, I'm Kevin Worth.
My name is Naomi Brockwell.
I'm Jordan Muthra.
Hi, I'm Galen Moore.
Hi, I'm Brad Count.
I'm Pete Paschal.
Hi, I'm Jen Sanasi. You're watching.
And you are watching.
And you're watching CoinDesk TV.